I'm a 22 male that works in a nursery with children aged 0-4. What's the worst treatment you've received for engaging with other people's children? I used to work for a daycare center, 1718 M, and the kids loved me. I was able to play kickballs, baseball, two-hand touch, all that stuff a ton better. The parents were alright with it, since I'm a social person and made a point to talk with each of them individually so they would know who they were dealing with. I later left because the director said that a parent had complained because I was the manager of the homework room and their kid hadn't done all their work when it really was a discipline issue on the parents' side. I loved the kids, but hated the bulls the parents did. So that was kinda my last straw. I enjoyed working there though. Yep man. I like playing with all the toys. Try and use my imagination to improve their play too. The older women that work there can't relate. I make huge train tracks with Lego houses and upload bridges etc. That's a shame. I can't imagine leaving my job at the moment. I have certainly told this story on Reddit at least once, and on the internet in general probably close to 50 times. I still haven't gotten over it. I was sitting in a mall food court on my laptop doing whatever, and a baby wanders over near me. He's pretty small, walking, but just barely, not talking yet. I'm the sort of girl who melts and coos and alls at babies, so I stop what I'm doing to watch this little man do his bae stuff. After a moment, I notice that there doesn't seem to be anyone watching him. I decide to keep an eye on him until a parent comes around the corner and snaps him up. He wanders further and further through the food court towards the door. When he gets to the motion sensitive door, he starts giggling like a maniac as it opens and closes. He loves it. He gets closer and closer. Now it's open, and he's walking outwards. I do one last check to see if anyone is running after this baby, but no one is. I jump up, run out, and scoop him up before he wanders into the parking lot. He seems totally unfazed, starts messing with the collar of my shirt, while I walk 2 loops around the food court, looking for a parent. All of a sudden, some woman shrieks and runs over to me, telling me I should be ashamed of myself for touching someone else's child, and threatens to call the cops on me for kidnapping, and DSS for pedophilia, and anything else she can think of. I'm a monster. Awful. How dare I touch a hair on her precious baby. I hand her son over, and walk away, fuming. If she really cared about her son that much, she wouldn't have let him walk around for 15 minutes unsupervised. A minute or 2, during which he makes a run for it. Excusable. 15 minutes while you sat there and he wandered around aimlessly towards the parking lot was ridiculous. I wish I had let her call the cops or DSS. I should have gotten her name, reported her or something. Call the cops and show them the CCTV of the front door by the parking lot. I actually just hired a guy because his summer job was working with toddlers. I figured if he could deal with that much screaming and tantrum throwing he'd probably do fine with the tenured faculty. Half joking aside, he's just someone who's great with kids, as I'm guessing you probably are OP. Don't let people get you down. Yep, if you can deal with toddlers for 11 hours a day you're pretty much capable of doing anything. LOL. I sold Just Dance 2 to a few young girls. They told me they were having a slumber party and were super excited to play it. I told them that I hope they have fun and that they like their game. The mother looked at me like I had just offered them rape flavored candies. That's what happens when you sell things out of a panel van. In high school I worked at a butcher shop. Near the front door we had a couple small candy dispensers, the type where you put in a quarter and it gives you a handful of Skittles or M&Ms or whatever it was filled with. Refill days were always the best, by the way, because our store was the last one on the route of the woman who owned the dispensers and she always let us keep all the leftover candy she had. I always used to keep a few quarters in my pocket to give to kids so they could have some candy. As a kid I always wanted candy from those things but I never had any money and I was afraid to ask my parents. So I figured by giving the kids a quarter I'd brighten their day. Most parents wouldn't care or would thank me. I always asked them first. Don't want to give a diabetic kid candy by accident. But there was one woman who flew off the handle at me. Her son was maybe 7 or 8 and he asked her if he could have some candy. She checked her purse, didn't have any quarters, and told him maybe next time. I happened to be standing near the front and so reached into my pocket and handed the kid a quarter. He got really excited, But then his mom started screaming at me. She accused me of trying to groom her son, of being a pedophile, and she threatened to call the police if I ever looked at her son again. The whole time I stood there shocked, no idea what to do. The boy looked just as scared as I was as she grabbed him and yanked him away. She then went over to the counter, where all the other guys who worked there had gathered, and demanded that the owner fire me. He started laughing and she just started screaming louder. Finally he told her to shut the frick up, lady. He apologized to her son for cursing. He then grabbed a paper cup, went over to the candy dispenser, unscrewed the top, scooped out as much candy as the cup could hold, handed the cup to the kid, and told him not to let his mom take it away, then told the woman to get out of the store and never come back. I love your boss. My mother taught elementary school. One of my high school friends ended up teaching in the same school. Joe is a big, bear-like, bearded guy, just the calmest, nicest person you could imagine. My mother said that the little kids were really drawn to him, that they had a strong need for a male role model. She wished that Joe wasn't the only male elementary teacher. Maybe that's why they appear drawn to these people. There's an older black man who works at my nursery. The children also love him. He had an issue a year ago where a new parent asked for him to never be allowed to change their child's nappy. My boss was appalled and set them straight, basically suggesting that they were saying I'd rather my child stayed in a soiled nappy than a man change it. I'm a male, qualified nursery nurse. I no longer work with children due to the sexism that goes on in the workplace. I'm as good as any female working with children and better than most. The fact I'm male has nothing to do with this. But feeling like a lower class of worker got to me after about 3 years on the job. In the last nursery I worked out where I was acting as room senior, I had parents flat out refuse to talk to me, hand me their child, and 2 parents even went to the management and told them they were not comfortable letting me change nappies and interact with their children. Having the manager not stick up for me in those cases contributed heavily to me leaving. I do hope that you can get past these issues, because it is a really fun, if massively unpaid and appreciated job, and my best advice is try not to move nurseries, and if you do, go to one with existing male staff. Parents will have an easier time not being sexist if they are used to you other men. This child molester paranoias pee me off. I was a victim of CSA as a kid, and let me tell you, it wasn't who people thought it was. They thought it was a male stranger. In reality, it was a female family member. People need to relax and let men be good with kids already. So bored of this gender role bulls. About 90-95% of sexual abuse occurs by someone the victim knows. But that's not dramatic, so nobody talks about that. We create a paranoia about the internet predator or the creepy flasher at the park. But they're probably 2% of the problem. If you're great with kids, keep at it. Don't let a few bad apples ruin your ability to do a fantastic job. The only advice I would give is never be alone with 1-2 kids, always be in groups or with one of the other caregivers. This advice should be followed by any child worker, male or female, just because some parents believe everything their children says. Yeah, that's what we're told, but also when changing a child's nappy there are times you're unsupervised because you can't have a ratio of 2 staff to 1 child, especially when it's a personal shy time for children. I'm a mid-20s male. I lived in a duplex for a year next to a family of 4. I have always been pretty good with kids. I have 4 much younger cousins I played with a lot growing up, and love playing with them. The family was very nice to me when I moved in and we talked occasionally when I saw them outside or something. The father ended up getting a new job in a different state and would work there for 3 weeks and then would come home for the entire next week. That being said, he wasn't around too often. Well, their 2 kids, probably 13-year-old girl and 10-year-old boy, would play outside all the time. Occasionally they would ask me to play catch or soccer with them and I would. I really think the mother had a problem with this though. After this started happening she would give me weird looks and one time I overheard her friend asking who I was. I was playing with the kids at the time, and she said the neighbor, playing with the kids again. He's always being creepy like that. Needless to say, when my lease was up, I moved. I just thought it would be nice to play with the kids because the dad was rarely around, and kids are fun, unlike adults. TLDR. Neighbor called me creepy for playing catch with her kids when they would ask me She was chatting to a friend while her children played catch with somebody else. Nothing against you being allowed to play, but that sounds like crappy parenting. I was nearly arrested and charged with assault at a mall. I was babysitting my niece, who's Spanglish, half white half Mexican. Brackets and brackets, I cannot believe Spanglish is an auto-corrected word, and I am white. She was 4 or 5 at the time and I was watching her for 2 days because of family timing. While, in an effort to stay sane with a 5-year-old girl running around, we went to the mall. When she needed to use the bathroom, I took her to the family bathroom and stood outside while she went. But she could not reach the sink well and ended up spraying water all over herself. So I go in for a bit to clean her up and dry her off. I come out to at least 10 mall security folks around me saying I needed to come with them while my response was no and we tried to walk away. They swarm me and she starts crying till I pick her up. Now I have mall security trying to grab me and take her from me. I backhand the grabby one and try to get someone to call the police. Now I have a crying 4-year-old in my arms screaming no, my uncle, and a mob of security guards who think I am a molester. I wanted to press charges on the mall security for trying to grab me and the child, but the cops said I was lucky to not be arrested. TLDR, 25-year-old with 4-year-old must be child molester. 2 bad things about working with kids for me. 23 female. 1. Some parents get really pissed at the way I will treat their kids. They spend so little time with their own children that they think they are perfect little angels and won't listen to me if I tell them otherwise. I got screamed at for 45 minutes when I gave a child a timeout once. Freaking ridiculous. The other downside is I'm with kids so much of the time. Sometimes when I'm out in public and not at work, I will smile or wave at someone's kid who is looking at me or start talking to them. Wow, I like your Spider-Man shirt. And parents look at me like I'm a child molester because only a child molester stealer would talk to a child in public and be nice. I was a swim instructor when I was 16 to 18. Parents would pull their kid from my class when they found out I was male. I was the only male instructor as well. That's stupid. My swim instructor was male and we had one-on-one tuition. He was just a really nice guy and great at teaching. My desk overlooks the daycare at my work, and I watch the kids play outside sometimes when I'm bored, which is a lot. There's one man that works there, probably 30ish, and the kids love him. He throws them around and hangs them upside down and pushes them around in those red and yellow little Tykes cars. They are never injured, and there's usually a lineup for the next kid to be hung upside down by his legs. The women who work there just watch the kids play and almost never interact. I'm sure you do an awesome job, and I agree with what you said here somewhere. Kids need a good male role model in their lives. It's exactly that. The women stand around while I join in. The interaction builds bonds. I hope I am remembered by them for being awesome. I went to Disneyland not too long ago, and as my friend and I left the Star Tours ride, I see a little kid wandering around looking really worried, so I go up to him and asked him if he was okay. He looks at me with watery eyes and says my mommy. So I hold his hand and tell him I'll help you find your mom. We walk out and he say there she is, so we walk over. Not Tkova, 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 not Tkova. I still don't know why she looked at me with that evil look. Adorable. I don't understand how I, a 23-year-old woman, am automatically a safer and more obvious choice as a childcare provider than a man who has more experience. I don't like little kids. They're snotty and sticky and get into everything. I once watched a 3-year-old cram Lego pieces so far up his nose a doctor had to remove them. They're like dogs with opposable thumbs and the ability to form mostly complete sentences. I don't want your kids. I don't want any of mine either for the time being. Thus the stark lack of children in my life. But some people want an apathetic woman to care for their children over a clearly caring and involved guy? That's just stupid, and you should be ashamed for perpetuating sexist philosophies and archaic gender roles. OP. Keep on doing what you're good at. If when I ever decide to have kids, you'd be the sort of person I'd want to watch them when I can't. Until toddlers are dogs with opposable thumbs. I walk past a daycare by my work multiple times every day. Sometimes they're out in the yard, playing. Most of the Female, adults that work there mildly participate with the children. There is this one guy that works there, probably around your age, and man is he good with those kids. He chases them, makes dinosaur sounds, plays games, sings, jokes around. If one kid is off by themselves, he checks up on them and tries to get them to come join everyone else. He is by far the best caretaker they have there, at least in what I've seen. Keep on doing what you're doing, and don't let other people's bad judgment bother you. Until recently, when my boyfriend and I went to Disneyland, I would only go on certain rides. On rare occasions for other rides we would also do this individually when it was crowded. So if my boyfriend wanted to ride certain rides, i.e. California Screaming, he had to do it in the single rider line. Recently he had to stop doing this, however, because he was sick of everyone looking at him like he was a pervert. He just wanted to ride the ride and have fun, but parents acted like he was going to molest their children at Disneyland for sitting where a cast member told him to. Some notable examples: dirty looks from parents when he sat next to a kid, seating assigned by Disney, parents instructing their kids to get in such a way that he can't board, rude comments. In some cases, parents have changed seats with their kids so that they are next to him. Most recently, I remember one parent who was making a big deal out of riding with the youngest kid so they wouldn't be scared the first time. When he was placed in the car as a single rider, the parent immediately switched so that the 10-year-old boy was with his sister instead of riding with my BF. Please keep in mind, he is a well-groomed 30-year-old. No tattoos or anything that might scare them. Not that it should make a difference, in my opinion. Till parents think that everyone outside of their own family and friend circles is a pedophile. The ironic thing is kids are much more likely to be molested by a family member or someone close to the family than some random person on the street. Sadly, so very true. I live in NYC. In parks that have children's climbing equipment you can be ticketed for sitting on a nearby bench if you are not accompanied by children. That's pretty stupid. Actually, I am trying to defend that decision. It's difficult, because that's utterly stupid. I live a block away from an elementary school. When I jog by alone, I sometimes get suspicious stares from moms who are there with their kids, but when I do so with my dog, the moms are always like AWW, look at the cute doggy, makes it much easier to abduct the children. Well, that escalated quickly. I'm a stay-at-home dad of a 9-month-old boy. I recently started hanging out with a friend from junior high who has a 13-month-old boy. We knew each other in 7th grade in Africa. Now we live in the same city in the US. The boys were in a shopping cart in a big box store the other day and 8 people asked us if they were twins. They are the same size but look nothing alike. It's understandable that people might make that assumption. When we told them their ages we got the strangest looks. You could see the math gears grinding in their heads. By the 8th person we had a decent presentation explaining our seemingly impossible situation. Not bad treatment, but I had to put this story somewhere. TLDR. Just don't talk to anyone, ever. People assume that your life is just like theirs, and it nearly destroys them to find out that it isn't. I don't know where you live, but in the US, there is intense paranoia about child abuse, molestation, and any man who works with young children is suspect, just by being male. Cover your butt, obey your employer's policies to the letter, don't be alone with a child, etc. Consider getting your own liability insurance. It's just crazy. I see school systems in my states working hard to recruit male primary school teachers so boy students have good male role models. And other parts of the school system administration trying to get rid of male teachers because of the fear of a lawsuit. I live in the UK. There is the same paranoia here too. I obviously obey their policy. I realize it's there to protect me, and I won't jeopardize that. We try and employ males at my company because it's healthy. Children shouldn't grow up, at any stage of their development, without a male role model. Home has dad and mum, usually, and so should a nursery school. D. Sexism pure and simple. I worked with children and youth for years. Personally, I only caught flack a few times from people who hadn't met me yet. Dropping off a teenager, seeing a man working there, he's working with youth. Maybe he's a pedophile. Being married helped. Having appropriate boundaries with the kids helped. Getting to know the parents helped. But it's just one of those prejudices that people have. They forget that women are capable of inappropriate behavior with children and youth, and that there are good men out there and that kids and youth need strong male role models too. I've worked nursery type jobs, summer day camps, and after school program type stuff. I did this up until I turned 28 and just stopped because other things came along. I spent a 10-week internship in inner city St. Louis, primarily working with underprivileged kids. I would always get weird looks from parents when I would actually interact with young children and not just be the uninvolved guy who just stood there while kids played. The judgmental looks suck, but what makes it all worth it is how the kids genuinely like you and you can make their lives fun. Someone will treat you like crap no matter what profession you pick. I've never had a job where everyone was polite and treated me with respect. It doesn't matter where you work, there's always an butthole. Dude, holy crap, you're going to love this. I worked at one of the best after school programs in my state. We had people signing up every day to go there. Since it was so popular, we had a huge amount of say in what kids went there. So when a kid was a giant butthole or the parent was unreasonable, I just brought them to my boss and she'd tell them to take a hike. Also, it breaks my heart when I can't let the little girls climb all over me and sit in my lap like they want to. They saw me more than their actual fathers and I practically raised a bunch of them. What the frick? There were 2 male employees at the preschool I went to. No one treated them badly. One of them was great. He had the same first name and last name, and as a child I found this endlessly amusing. He tried to cheat at story time though because he thought none of us could read, but I could read, goddamn it, and I started calling him on it when he changed stuff in the story. Seriously, I've never had a male childcare worker that I didn't love as a kid. Just be you and remember that most of those kids will love you forever if you play with them. It's important you don't give in to this stupid idea that men are all evil or some crap. Or just move to Canada because I have never seen that kind of crap fly here. LOL, I do sometimes change the words. At my nursery we have like a taboo about the word naughty because we don't label children because then they feel bad and upset. So when reading Little Miss Naughty I'll always say Little Miss Misbehaved. It's the little things. P. I worked as an umpire for Little League girls softball when I was in high school for some extra money. These girls were at the point where it was the first year they were pitching the ball instead of hitting it off the tee. I was told to call anything close as a strike or else the games would be 50-45 because that many runs would be walked in. I called a few third pitch strikes on girls that got me screamed at by parents. I had one guy and lady rush up the fence like foaming at the dang mount and tell me they knew who I was and they were going to be waiting for me in the parking lot. I said frick it a short time later and never did it again. $20 bucks a game isn't worth it. TL. Doctor parents are crazy buttholes at sporting events. As a woman who was sexually abused by a young male caregiver around this same age, all I can say is good for you. I wish I had had a young male around who was a positive force in my life. It may have helped prevent a lot of messed up relationships and feelings if I could have built a trust in men. Screw the haters. You keep doing your great work. I am so sorry that happened to you, but I wanted to say thank you for knowing that the majority of male caregivers are not bad people. I know it sounds weird from a stranger, but I am proud of you. I hope you do well in life. Someone in your situation could be forgiven for distrusting men, so thank you for getting past that. I worked as a substitute teacher after college. I spent most of my time in the middle school doing one-day jobs, but when a month-long request for the elementary school presented itself, I decided to take it. I was an aide in a 3rd grade class and I was there to help out with one troublesome student. My first day in the class I kept getting weird looks from the other teachers. That night the regular teacher got 14 emails from parents asking who the new male aide was. I still believe that if I was female that would not have happened. I eventually met a few of the parents and I think putting a face with my name helped relieve their fears. Yes, when I first start I get a lot more judgment, but after introductions it gets better. I was walking through the mall just last week when this woman with a toddler walking past me. The kid said hello like toddlers love to do, and I didn't want to be rude to the kid. So I looked back and said hello. Mom got this look of horror as if I had just skinned someone in front of her. She grabs the kid and half runs half walks away from me, looking back at me as if I were following her. My kid says hello to everyone. Then when she gets a response she tells them she's a princess. I'll try to make this long story short enough. I met my ex at a community college, started dating her. She has a 3-month-old child. No big deal. Eventually I get really close and serious with this girl, start to look after her child, raise him. I move in with them after 6 months. My ex was sexually abused by her father, physically abusive to her mother. Whole family is really fricked up. I have a part-time job and my ex was working full-time. So subsequently I watched and took care of our child most of the time. I fed him, changed diapers all the time, took him out to the park. Things a good father would do. So fast forward 2 years, I'm over at my ex's mother and stepfather's house. Our kid needs his diapers changed. Exit talking to mother, so I said I would get it. Ex's mother flips out because of this. My ex's mom got into a huge argument with her about how it's her job to take care of the child, and she shouldn't be letting me do all the work. She also thought it was weird that I was so willing to take care of the child. She thought it was too weird considering he wasn't my own blood. So another month or 2 down the road I decide to watch some kinky submissive MILF pee on my computer while baby is asleep. I think nothing of it. I occasionally watched pee and my ex knew that. Next day my ex calls me up batshit crazy. She was going through my history and found the pee. Ex calls her mom up. Her mom convinces her I was going to abuse our child based off of the facts I was really close and caring to him and I liked kinky MILF pee. Frick me right? Crazy bee. Glad she's my ex. But I still miss my son. I raised him for 2 years as his father. TLDR. Ex's mom thought I was going to molest my non-biological child because I took care of him too much and liked kinky MILF pee. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.